Hello to another Delboy stream with my friend Denny. We're here to talk about the Doctor Who episode that's just been shown, and because this could be anybody's first watch, we're gonna introduce ourselves. Just get rid of that echo. So we're going to introduce ourselves, and I'm going to let Denny introduce himself first. So carry on.
Hello, Del. Hello, everybody again. Thanks for having me back again, Del. Yeah, just as I already started last week. Well, firstly, I hope everybody's fine out there. There's a bit of a flu virus going about. So, yes, we've succumbed to it. I hope everybody else is all right. It's a bit of a nasty one. Just to let you all know who's joined this week, I currently run 2 channels. Retro Control Center, which is the normal games from the old 8-bit, 16-bit era. Next video I shall do is Whizball, coming up very soon, hopefully just before Christmas, and Adventurer's Rest. I do the old text adventure, graphic adventure games. The next one is the Heroes of Khan for the Commodore 64, so a bit of an exclusive there. And besides watching science fiction films, I love science fiction games and all that, and big gaming. I love science fiction and horror films. And anything else that really takes me fancy on celluloid, really. So that's basically in a nutshell.
Absolutely brilliant. I love that nutshell. It's sort of like similar to my nutshell. I'm Delboy. I've been doing a blog now for nearly 2 years. It's every Sunday. I not only do blogs though, I like to do nostalgic look backs at things. Sometimes looking at nostalgic games and with a modern feel to them, so I like to bring a little bit of a modern flavor to things. It's sometimes games related, it's sometimes film related, and I hope I just bring a little bit of entertainment in with that. I am a person who's watched Doctor Who for many years. I've always mentioned that one of my earliest recollections is watching John Pertwee turn into Tom Baker. But of course, being a fan, I've watched all of the classic Doctor Who, even in audio format, animated format, telesnap format, you name it format, I've watched it. And gone through all the formats of VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, till we come to the point of latest broadcast. And we're going to head into that shortly. So I'm just going to ask my friend Denny, is there anything he wants to add before we start? I think we'll give our summarization at the end. Maybe you'd like to talk about how it went last week. Is there anything that you want to change about last week, Denny?
There is, actually. I want to change my rating. I want to put it down to 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
There's been a lot of videos on the internet. Not only do I like talking about it, I like to hear everybody else's views and how they see it. And obviously there's a lot out there that went on about obviously the political views, the message. There were that many. Obviously, our Al Fivers Hill versus Babyface, he done quite a few on it. There's quite a few. There's one that put out, I couldn't put it better myself, basically ramming political vomit down our throat. On repeat viewing, it was atrocious. Let's be honest, it was absolute. There was no story. It was just about pushing the message. And I'm glad that this week there's a lot of change, shall I say. So
we'll come across this week, won't we, when we start talking about it.
But last week it was abysmal. So I'm dropping it down to 2 out of 10. There was nothing real worthwhile about it.
Yeah.
Except the end.
So for me to look back at last week, I was really excited about this stream. I couldn't expect any better expectations than I did. It went marvelously well. That being said, talking about what the subject we were talking all about, which was the Doctor Who, yes, I would drop it down a couple of points as well. I think I gave it like a 6 and said that depending on how these 3 stories are joined up, this figure could go up or down. It depends on how they join up. we'll talk about whether I think this joins up with the first episode at the end, because I want to talk about this actual episode before I start doing any of that. But if you want to know whether I'll drop my now that I've had time to digest the story and watch it again and see Doctor Who Unleashed, which I know is going on at the moment, by the way, but I do know that people can watch this on repeat. Yes, I would definitely drop it down. A lot of people that did a broadcast, I think, immediately afterwards were all giddy with excitement. It was the speculation, it was the spectacular nature of it coming back after, with David Tennant after a number of years. And I think after a while of people digesting it and speculating and all of the wokeness and then the pronouns and everything else that was negative about it, people, I think, have come to the conclusion, yeah, it wasn't what it was it? And I think a number of people would drop it down. I'll drop my 6 down to a 4, which was the position that you gave yours. And I'll talk about this episode and then say whether my last week's episode score that I've just dropped down to a 4 goes any higher when you put these two stories together. Predictably, I can give you a small hint on that. Could possibly. Did I give too much away there?
Yeah.
So just before we start, there has been some comments already. There isn't too much to mention here, but I do like to get comments out just to show that people are watching and to say hello to these people. So we've got Ian Batchelor. He's got the first comment in. He says, I haven't been able to bring myself to watch last week's Doctor Pooh yet, and haven't watched this evening's either. So thank you for taking the bullet for me. LOL. That's absolutely our pleasure, Ian. Not an actual problem. Great to see the Doctor Pooh being brought up. I've seen that a while. Then we'll go to Colin. Colin has come in. What did I say about the coffee? He says the TARDIS and getting them to where and when they are needed. Yes, you did mention that last week, my friend. And of course, they still didn't answer the fact that there's all this future technology and they haven't got bloody rubber seals around all the buttons yet. So there you go. That's a bit like the Enterprise and no seatbelt. So there we go. What can we really say about anything? Then we've got more from Colin, and he says, hello. And we've got the first score of the night from Danny. Hello, Danny, friend of my channel. He says, hi, how are you? I give this a 3 out of 10. Oh, I don't know what you thought of it last week then, but I hate to think what you thought it was if this is a 3 out of 10. Yeah. I'm not going to give my score until the end, but we've got our first score. So there we are. Scores on the doors. Didn't he do well? 3 out of 10. Are we going to go higher than a 3? No, it's all right. Yeah. We'll stop all that. Colin Jones, I'll be quiet until 8. Yeah, I understand, because it says here you're also watching Unleashed. And we've got my old mate Rocket Bunny. I haven't been able to speak to him for must be a couple of months now, since I used to play Valheim on his server. Really great, Scott. Hey Del, been a while. Hope you're well. Found this one more enjoyable than last week. Not a difficult thing to do, mind you. I think we're going to come to probably the same conclusion, my friend. So we'll move on to the last comment that I can see at the moment. And oh, by the way, lovely to see you here, Rocket Bunny. We got another comment from Denny where he says last week's score was a 5 out of 10. So you've scored 5 out of 10 for last week, 3 out of 10 for this week. Okie dokie. Everybody's got their own opinion. Maybe during this and we deliberate, you might change your mind. You might argue with us. That's what we want. We want a debate. We don't. This is a warts and all conversation about an episode that we've just seen. And I do realize that people do need to digest things and usually watch things a couple of times. The one thing I will say before we started it, that I found it very amusing, that the guy that was introducing the program said, and watched by 5 million people last week. And I wasn't really going to bring up the figures because me and Denny had a chat about the figures and said we won't bring the figures into it because, to be quite honest, I can't get how figures work this. And I think it's bad to try and compare 70s and 80s Doctors, where we had 4 channels, and now we've got digital download, broadcast, recap, all sorts of stuff, and then you tie all the figures together. And to be quite honest, I don't know what the 7-day figures are. I still don't know what the 7-day figures are. And at the end of the day, who gives a shit? It's what we as friends are going to deliberate in this show. And just before we start, I'm going to tell you now, I am nervous more about this episode than I was last week, because I tell you what, this was a ball ache to try and write down what was going on the screen at the same time as trying to watch and take it all in, because, well, no spoilers here, but there is a lot of confusion on who's talking to who. How's that for bringing who and who into something? Who's talking to who? How's that? Anyway, we'll get into that, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this story. There's been a couple of comments already again, but we must get started shortly. So we'll just start these up. We've now got Colin Thompson saying Doctor Who was brilliant tonight. So this is all very good, because we've got somebody that scored it quite low, and we've also got brilliance being mentioned as well. Rocket Bunny says, agree, Del. That's to the last recap that I just talked about just now. So hopefully you guys will agree or disagree. This is what we're looking forward to. And we've got Ian, who says, hi, Greg and Denny. I think the grumpy old man has calmed down tonight. He seems happier. That's what he's talking about himself. I think we're going to come to the end of this on a better note, but I don't want to go to the end when we haven't really even talked about the start of this deliberation yet. So we're going to do a recap, much like we did last week. I hope some of you guys and gals have watched last week's deliberation. You'll know what the format is like. I am going to get lots of this wrong, because it's reading my chicken scratch and the confusion of the story. So we're going to start right now. Denny, are you ready for this?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to actually add anything to what you're going to put, because, as you say, this is what you call a ball ache. It's absolutely confusing for me.
Yeah. So I'll do the best I can to deliberate based on my chicken scratch. And remember, I'm writing it down at the time it's all going on the screen. So please bear with me and bear it in mind. You try and do this. It is not easy. So it starts off. I get to the right page. House shown, the year 1866 is displayed on the screen. Is that right? Did I get that year right? Was it 1866? Because was it 1666? Yeah, because I've got my little chicken scratch over it, and I'm going 16 like this. 1666. A guy is talking to a girl saying that he wants to get some inspiration. Guy heads under a tree. Realize it's now Newton is under a tree. TARDIS flies by, crashes into the tree. Doctor and Donna lean out, start talking to Newton. The joke of the whole story there was Donna turning around and saying, it's the gravity of the whole situation. New titles. So that was basically the beginning that I wrote down, and as I said, I'm already trying to read my chicken scratch and so forth. So yes, 1666, of course. Thoughts there, Denny?
Thoughts were, why did they even put this scene in? Why did they need to start off with comedy again? You know, my loathing of comedy. Yeah, it's the 21st century Doctor Who, but what was the scene for? How did it tie into the episode?
Yeah. Did you think it might be brought up upon later on in the episode, or hoped it did at the time that you saw this, or did you just think that's a weak opening?
Well, I just thought it was crap, to be honest. If I'm totally honest. I mean, there's no relevance to the episode whatsoever. A comedy skit, which I thought brought what to the episode? What? I mean, somebody tell me in the comments if I've missed something, but I just thought it was a strange opening, if I was honest.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I tried to think of this as how the last episode ended and how this one started. And of course, it ended with the Doctor in peril. So there's a big fire. Basically, you don't know if the TARDIS is dematerialized or not. So if you were joining these two episodes together, the next scene would be cut to a house in 1666. Do you see what I mean? See how I'm joining this together? And I'd be going, okay, right. We don't know what's happening to the Doctor or anything. And then suddenly it crashes into the tree and they open it up and there's a little joke. So it's sort of like a diminish the peril sort of thing. But as far as I'm concerned, incredibly weak start. I would say an absolutely incredibly weak start. Doctors that have met previous people through in time have generally in classic Doctor Who sort of like generally done it at the end or in the middle, and there's a purpose for it. You know, even if it's the Doctor is a meddler, we've always known he's a meddler, but we also know that there are bits in time that you can't alter and all of this sort of stuff. So I thought to myself, even Peter Davison did this better with the Pudding Lane episode. You know, the start of the 20th anniversary with the Great Fire of London and the aliens. You know, the fire that started off in Pudding Lane, and you see the TARDIS dematerialize, and you see the same sign Pudding Lane, and you go, "Oh, what a great tie-in!" Can't see any great tie-in with this one. So I labeled this one as pretty weak. Now we've got to the titles, so I'm going to read out what we've got so far because I'll try and keep a pace of this. Colin Jones said slow start, but I did enjoy this one even more than last week. Mind you, there aren't many I really don't like. Love and Monsters and Kill the Moon especially. Thoughts on that one, Denny? Agreed? Any of those two episodes ring bells with you? I remember Kill the Moon.
Love and Monsters, that was with Peter Kay, wasn't it? Oh, that was awful. Absolutely awful, you know. But just to go back to your last point, I think the scene would have been better cutting out the Newton part and going straight where it crashed into and moulded itself.
Yeah, cut the joke out. Like I said, I gave it the benefit of the doubt right at the beginning to go, if I was to put those two together, there'd be a gap between the peril. You wouldn't feel quite so bad. But then again, the peril is still there in the next section. So we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, I agree with Colin's part on that.
Yeah, Colin says, maybe. Colin then says, talking of comedy in last week's judge scene, that was first done by Tom Baker. Was it really? Ooh, I have to think back about. Oh yes, of course. There is the Deadly Assassin, I think, where there's a courtroom scene, isn't there? Possibly. It'll probably be a Gallifreyan story. My objection of the judging scene was not the fact that it was a courtroom scene. It's where the hell did he get the bloody cat from? Oh, that was a big load of crap. Colin then says, it's just that comedy. It's meant to be largely irrelevant, just a bit of light-hearted fun. Yeah, you know what I mean? We've talked in the past where we've said that this might not be written for us. I don't have too much problems with comedy. In fact, Patrick Troughton was the person who turned around and said he brought a bit of whimsical comedy, pixie like to it because he tried to diffuse a difficult situation with a joke. You know. But then that's part of the character, and it wasn't in your face. I mean, some of these episodes could have had a laughter track, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean?
I mean, for me though, Del, it's dark comedy that had enriched the program even more for me. I like dark.
Yeah. So anyway, we will move on because there are no more comments there. So we've got past the titles. So it says the TARDIS crashes. There's a fire that comes out of the TARDIS doors, and you can hear a cloister bell.
Yeah.
And a song which Donna later explains is The Wild Blue Yonder, which basically explains the title of the story. Donna blames herself, and the Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to help with the rebuild. Looks around his surroundings and debates whether he's on a spaceship. Do you want me to pause there and you want to add anything to that?
Not up to that point. Obviously, there's the part with the sonic screwdriver him coming to, I take it.
Yeah, it says uses his sonic screwdriver to help with the required
Now,
repairs.
is that another new thing the sonic screwdriver can do?
Wow, he did use a normal screwdriver and
To
a
begin
sonic
with,
screwdriver.
and then he put that in the key lock,
He
didn't he?
he did say it was an assistance, and the first thing I've seen is a blue light lighting at the top of the TARDIS to show that it's now repairing itself. That was something new that I haven't seen before. You see, this is where classic Doctor Who would have used things like block computation transfer and taken it to Logopolis to use mathematics to try and repair the outer and all this sort of stuff. Now he pulls out a screwdriver, fits it into a hole, and a blue light comes on. So there you are, it's repairing now. You know what I mean? You can look
technology,
at it and pretty
technology advances, though, Del, I suppose.
exactly.
We had to go with the times.
I will tell everybody now. We did debate just yesterday a little bit about technology, and we can't naturally assume that just because these are Time Lords that they're not naturally also got scientists bringing up new equipment. We already know that the TARDIS is in certain Mark versions, the Mark 40, the Mark, and so forth. So who's to say that the sonic screwdriver that comes out of the TARDIS each time that it's regenerated itself hasn't got new technology built into the screwdriver? It is something that is there, and it's hinted at, but it's not hinted at very well, which is why I think a lot of people are going, why is the screwdriver now suddenly able to do everything that Harry Potter's wand can do? People are not grasping that very much.
This is an interesting idea as well. The TARDIS can upgrade itself as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, at one point they were saying that this is just a desktop. The TARDIS that you see can change its desktop theme as and when it wants, and it's got 30 or 40 possibilities or something. I do remember an episode saying something along those lines. So anyway, shall we move on?
Just a note on the cloister bell. Was that the impending damage to the TARDIS, or was it a thing coming later about when it vanished?
Exactly. There's both things here. I mean, it's obviously got danger to itself, and obviously it's recognizing possibly that there is danger outside. The cloister bell is a sound. How can somebody differentiate what the sound actually means? It's not exactly like a language. So, that I think is also quite good, because I'd hate it if there was a narrator telling you, oh, that's what this means. By the way, I'm talking about myself. I'm on fire. That that probably wouldn't work for me. So it's nice that, yes, we're deliberating at this particular point. The cloister bell is a impending disaster. And there's this noise going on. At the moment, they're crash landing on a ship, and we don't know anything about this. In fact, we're deliberating on whether it's a ship. So he's using the sonic to help repair himself. He looks at his surroundings, and they debate: are we on a spaceship? The Doctor decides to open up a door. He opens up a door to a very long corridor. They wave at something that's very far away. They start walking along the corridor towards this thing that's very far away, and there's an impending of being watched. And they start talking about Sir Isaac Newton while they're walking along. I'm going to stop there. Is there anything that you want to bring in?
Well, this is the thing. The opening part, I thought this was, because I started talking about and mentioned gravity again. I thought, oh, is this the buzzword and something's going to happen with gravity? But they never said anything after this point. So,
no.
So it's, as I said, it was just a very strange opening and why they put it in. So, yeah, they did mention him, but yeah, just a bit strange why they didn't, sort of mould him into the episode if they was going to use that scene. Strange.
Yeah, I agree. I've got nothing really to add at this particular point. I did like the little bit of they're being watched. While they were being watched, there was configuration going along. You couldn't see what this creature was in a great distance. I thought to myself, this does look big. This whole thing looks big. The TARDIS looks big. This thing looks big. So, you know, no problems at this particular stage. We'll just see if
But
anybody is commenting at this particular juncture. So we've got Rocket Bunny's got. I actually missed the intro. Was only started watching from the opening titles. Sounds like quite a fun intro. Never mind a light-hearted moment, especially as this was a more darker episode. And that's what I was thinking as well. You know, it has a light-hearted start then leading into a much darker episode. I did clock that. Then we've got General Grievous 19. He's going, hello, General Grievous. Nice to see you here. That's brilliant. And then Rocket Bunny says, I think the desktop feed comment was a Children in Need special with Peter Davison and David Tennant. I do know it was in New Who. I couldn't quite remember where it was. That's what I have to say about that. That's where I reckon I've got Alzheimer's and I can't think what the hell's going on. My words are not very good. I put it down to that. And then the last comment we've got from Colin Jones is Mavity was the running joke in the episode. Mavity, yeah, gravity, Mavity. Yeah, I get it. Like I said, I'm just wondering, would the audience that it's aimed at, would they get that? What's your thoughts?
Good point.
So, you know,
well,
with that bombshell, we'll move on, shall we? Unless you've got something else to say. So the TARDIS then disappears. Various methods to get the TARDIS back are discussed. There's an argument. Donna gets scared, and the Doctor swears that he's going to get her home. The Doctor then talks about the TARDIS having hazards. That's what that is, that hazard system. HADS. And they realize that they're in danger. So at this particular point, we'll pause because there's quite a bit to take in there. First of all, we have heard of the TARDIS having HADS before. The Doctor does realize now that the TARDIS has gone away and there's no way to get it back because the screwdriver is stuck in the actual locking mechanism. So there's no way of whistling, bringing it back, all of that sort of stuff. So forget everything that you've seen, even in classic Doctor Who, where the Doctor's got a whistling key ring or whistle when it comes, and it's Doctor's privilege that he's now got the ability to have a call mechanism to bring it back and all of that sort of stuff. Donna saying that she blames herself was quite nice because she did spill the coffee all over it. The Doctor then reassures her it's not, but then turns back on that mid-sentence and goes, well, if you hadn't poured the coffee all over it and all of this sort of stuff, it was sort of like going back and forth. But at the end, they hugged each other and said, you know, it is what it is. We've got to move forward. I can't think of anything else to say about that particular juncture. Is there anything?
Just the scene, it just proves the point of the bond between them. She's frightened, thinking she's never going to get home to her family. So it was a good scene that played out. It was just, I like that part though, where where the TARDIS sees danger and it disappears. Now, was it danger because the situation it was in, it might have exploded, or was it danger it saw something on the spaceship? I don't know whether that passed me by, but was that actually confirmed why it did disappear?
No, I think basically I think he was going more towards, I'm 70% sure now that we're stuck because there's something dangerous on this ship. Because the TARDIS is repairing itself. It's got a blue light above it. It's already doing its repairs. So why would it fly off unless it thinks to itself it could blow up while I'm trying to repair myself, which I don't think is a possibility, really. I think.
Well, there might be something in that actually, because obviously at the end it does explode.
Yeah.
But would the TARDIS know that what was going on?
Exactly.
It's now more than the Doctor.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, there are many ways that we can sort of like look at that, but at this particular stage, I think we're both in agreement, even as an audience, they're in impending doom. They're in something that they're above their heads. They don't know what it is yet, and we as an audience are going to learn with them what they're going to be walking into, which I think is what the writing wanted out of this. So the Doctor then moves back into the passageway, and again I looked at this and I think it's exactly the same scene. They're being watched again. I'm pretty sure it was the same walkway they were walking past. They just repeated that shot, just walking by, because it looked identical. Even the angle was the same. You then hear a menacing voice for the first time, and the ship suddenly starts to reconfigure itself. The Doctor looks down at the floor and discovers something, puts his foot down, and a car is discovered.
Yeah, he says, if I'm right.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? He didn't explain that either.
No. Anything you want to add to that? They found a car?
No, nothing at all, really. Just that one point where he said, if I'm right, and stepped on that, and then... So that means he must have summoned something from the past. So...
Well, it's this. I'm just wondering, how many ships can you go on before you realise that everything is sort of like I keep thinking to myself, are all ships sort of like very similar in design? And so basically he thought to himself, this is a bloody long passageway. I bet you there's something along here that you can press on the side of a wall and you'll get something that will get you there quicker. I mean, he is supposed to be an intelligent, creature, and you don't know what he's seen, because there are many stories that we haven't heard, read, seen, or anything about. So I give it the benefit of the doubt, but I didn't see anything protruding out the floor that looked remotely like this is sticking out from the floor. I think I'll press it. Do you know what I mean? It
was one of them things. Somebody walking down the corridor, is that going to keep, by accident, going to keep flipping the car up?
Yeah, so, if it was sticking up, it would be a trip hazard. And if it was flat, it would look just like the floor, and then you wouldn't know it was there.
Well, there you go. Now HR policies and procedures on that spaceship.
Well, yeah. Yeah, don't think I want Russell T Davies to write the H&R procedures at our place, really, to be quite honest. Anyway, they get in the car. So we're moving forward. They get in the car, and it goes pretty darn fast, and they get to discover the robot. Donna decides to give it a name, Jimbo. I think it was Donna that gave it the name Jimbo. And the Doctor bangs it on the head. It steps forward but stops. It seems like it's moving very, very slowly. It's just made one step forward. Not thinking that they're not going to get anything back from this robot, they decide to get back in the car, but this time Donna is driving. They get to the end of the passageway, and there's a door. Anything you want to add at this particular point?
No, there's nothing really to add to that point. I mean, obviously the part with the robot where it took one step, it was obviously a longer stretch down the road as to why it was doing it. So
yeah, I've got nothing about this. The Doctor driving, the Donna driving. Don't really care too much who's driving. And yeah, it did seem to move at one heck of a speed. It was a pretty slippery floor, so I didn't expect there to be like Ridge Racer drifting or anything in an arcade game or something as they were going around this thing. But all in all, I was quite impressed with the immenseness of size of this thing. I did get an impression of size, and I was quite happy with that.
I thought the special effects were quite good as well. I quite like that.
They were using a lot of white. That's all I've got to say so far. The TARDIS is white. This passageway is white. The inside of the areas are grey. But this was very clinical white. I mean, it was startling white. You know what I mean?
They're all white, yeah.
Right. So yeah. So then we get to they get to the door. They open the door at the end. The Doctor sits in a chair and he scans for life for the environment that they're in. He deduces that there was an airlock that opened 3 years ago and activates a drone camera to to scan around the ship. Now I'm going to stop there just for a moment because I did have a problem here. Well, I didn't really have a problem. It's just that I do find it difficult sometimes myself with Doctor Who on whether like some other science fiction, they should use English time methods or human time methods. He said the airlock opened 3 years ago. Could have been 3 clicks, or whatever. I didn't have a problem with it. It's just that with all of the emphasis that was happening last week, I thought that Russell T Davies might have started to use different methods to describe time or elapsed time.
Is it possible
anyway,
just to explain to Donna?
Well, there is that as well, because I mean he is talking to Donna and she doesn't have a perceivement other than time is measured in the units that they use.
Yeah.
So like I said, I didn't really have a problem with it, but I did think that he could have then talked about why it's not years. He could have done that because there is a little discussion about her knowledge, being as she's from the 21st century. So anyway, glad you had nothing really to say about that. I've got no issues with all of the bits that we've got here so far.
I think the only thing I added where he was at the console, that part, I love the incidental music around that area. I thought that was brilliant, and what he brought up now, stars in space.
Oh, I haven't got that far yet.
Oh, right.
Because the very next word I've got to read out is the drone. The drone is going around the ship, and Donna notices no stars. There is speculation now about why there are no stars, with the Doctor deducing that it's fell through a wormhole. More speculation about the concept of nothing or absolute nothing, and then describes versions and variations of space. There's then a very loud noise. They rush to a door. Then there's a loud voice, and there's more reconfiguring going on in the ship. Then the Doctor walks to a data room. There are seems to be wafer thin memory slabs that are covered in goo. The Doctor decides to lick the goo. The Doctor then acts really ill, but it's just a joke. Yeah. The Doctor leaves looking for a spindle. Now, I'm going to stop there, because there's quite a big segment there. Anything that you want to talk about there?
Yeah, just from the console area. As I said, the now stars in space. But it's sometimes when they put things in that the Doctor says, like the edge of the universe, the edge of creation.
Yeah.
Never been this far out. I always find
seems to do that a lot, because I've heard him say it a bit.
Well, I like things like that.
Yeah,
sort of the mysterious part of it. But yeah, nothing more really to add to that. I did like. Now you talk about comedy. That part where they licked those cells, I was all right with that.
Yeah,
just like a pranky play on your friend. That's something to expect. So yeah, that was good.
I like the fact that the set looked a little bit like 2001 as well. There was sort of like these wafer thin bits. I was thinking almost like HAL, with all of these banks of stuff. And when you open the drawers up, you've got wafer thin sort of like circuit boards, but looking very much like just plastic with stuff around it. I thought, that it was all looking very nice.
Well, I'll be honest with you. One thing that come to my mind, obviously. You probably think, well, why? The Zygons come to mind, like with the goo. Obviously, it won't, but the biological type thing, but they seem to pop into my mind.
Yeah. So just before we move forward, Rocket Buddy's got a prediction, or got something to say here. He says he has a theory about the Doctor's time reference. I think it's part of the TARDIS telepathic circuits giving the time measurement the companion, like it translate languages. That's a little bit like what you were saying, and I must admit the TARDIS wasn't there, but I think it's more like what you said, really. The Doctor's putting it more in a language that Donna would understand, because He even expresses the fact that, you know, your own race is going to learn about this particular type of mathematics later on, and then you'll understand this concept of where we are, what's happening, and all of that. I think did he call it colonial? I don't know what it was all about. They gave it a nice, complex sounding scientific method of physics theory that I went, all right. You're giving it a name. Let's see whether the physics actually watch this episode, decide we're going to call it that out of honor of this episode. We'll see, won't we? Then we've got another little thing here that says, I think while Blue Yonder was a weird but good special episode of Doctor Who, I really liked it myself. So we're getting a couple here now that are saying that they're liking it compared to not liking it. But we'll see ourselves, won't we, Denny, when we get to the end? So we're going to move forward now. So what we've got is the Doctor is looking for a spindle room, and he finds a spindle room. I didn't know what spindle meant, really. He says he finds the spindle. Anyway, Donna notices it's getting cold because she's still in the data side of the room. Mist is coming from her mouth. This is where it's going to get very, very confusing, guys. And if I get anything wrong from here on, this was a ball ache to actually write down. And I can't say that any more than I do. Okay. Donna then starts remembering about the last look at her family as she when she got into the TARDIS to go off. Speculates not being able to go back. The Doctor's in the spindle room. Also says it's cold. Donna enters. Then it's revealed there is now an alien Doctor and an alien Donna, and both are in different rooms. So what we're speculating here is where Donna is, there is now a fake Doctor. Where the Doctor is, there is now a fake Donna. And these aliens are now starting to talk to the Doctor and Donna. Very confusing, but the Doctor is also reminiscing. The conversation continues until there is a reveal where the aliens start talking about why their arms are too long.
Oh, yeah.
And it's said by both of them. So the alien Doctor is saying, my arms are a bit long, my arms are a bit long. Donna's saying, my arms are a bit long, my arms are a bit long. But then the Donna shows the arms to the Doctor, and they've grown. So she's now revealed that she's not Donna. Doctor also notices as well through the talk that this is not the proper Doctor. So now we know that there are two Doctors and two Donnas, and more anatomy changes occur. Anything you want to add at the moment? Because it just get really sort of confusing from this point.
Just one thing they added: they come from the nothing. Basically,
do we know that at this stage? Because they were just talking. My arms are longer. My arms are longer.
I've actually put there my arms are too long. And it said we come. I think unless they come together later, we come from the nothing. And just before that was just to be a what's the name? Reparation filaments was those things that they put. Yeah, that's really there's nothing else to add to it, is there?
Yeah, I don't think it's neither here nor there when we learn that they come from the nothing. I just remember that their big reveal was about their anatomy not being the right length. And that is the reveal to both our own Doctor and our own Donna, by looking at them and seeing that their arms are growing and all that sort of stuff. Let's see if we've got anything new that's being said. I saw through that very quickly. Colin says, when I saw the scene switch between rooms, I said that's not the Doctor and that's not Donna. Yeah. And then that's it for that. So we'll move forward.
I think it was just Donna when she says, "Do you miss Gallifrey?" That was the point where it clicked with me.
Right.
Just for some reason.
So we'll see whether I mention anything about the nothing. I think I do, but I think it's a little bit later on. But it could have been mentioned at that point. So the Doctor and Donna are now running, and they're chased by the alien Doctor and Donna. they're speeding up all the time, and they keep attacking our heroes. Alien Donna and Doc are now too big, and the car, and just as they seem to be getting away, the car crashes, and the Doctor has a conversation about the two mass aliens now that are incredibly big. They start talking about mass, and the fact that their memories were being used. Anything you want to add at this point?
Not really. No? This is the point where it's difficult to add anything to what's already put on the screen, really.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. You know, we're starting to bring some science into it. I thought that the chase scene was quite perilous. Or are they going to get caught up with them? If they do get caught up with them, what are they going to do? Etc. Etc. And it was a high-speed chase. And generally, the BBC special effects for high-speed chases are shit. So I thought that this was actually quite a good use of speed. I thought that there was an element there that they were going pretty fast. They then head for an air vent, but the Doctor and Donna get split up as Donna slides down a panel as the Doctor actually gets to the vent itself. The Donna then starts shouting, begins to walk because they agree over the shouting that they're going to try and find each other. The Doctor walks, trying to find Donna. Donna is now in the dark, but sees an image, but walks away. The Doctor continues to search, and the Doctor and Donna find each other. But I put next to that confusion. Did they actually find each other?
Yeah.
So I turn the page over and see what I put. They try to find out if they are the actual Dr. Donna. So at this particular stage, they're querying, "Are you really Donna?" And she's going, "Are you really my doctor?" They start questioning each other. The other Doctor, Doc Donna, are having a conversation, and Donna reveals she sees the Doc's mind and knows about the last 15 years and mentions the flux. The Doctor what I put here. Doctor explains keeping running. Don't know what that basically means there. Do apologize. Like I said, it was very, very confusing, all of this. No, so I'm going to pause there while I try and sort of like catch up. Is there anything that you want to add here? Because it was, I do remember what it was like. They were both in there and they were sort of like talking about how they were going to know each other. And the Donna was sort of like saying that while even though he was gone 15 years, when he came back, the memories came back in. I suppose it's because of that metatartis energy.
Yeah, I mean,
so it still could have been the real Donna, or it could have been the fake Donna. So even the Doctor doesn't really know at this point what to make of all of that.
I mean, obviously, it's a bit of confusion here for me because I didn't watch the Jodie Whittaker episodes, so I don't know anything about the flux. Is this particular flux tying to the Timeless Children? Because I wrote down here, the Doctor, he brought up about even he didn't, more or less confirmed he didn't know where he was from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I didn't watch the Jodie Whittaker stuff and the flux. So, is this more or less confirming it's within canon?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of like in agreement with that. I mean, the one thing about it is that I do like confusing sci-fi, especially in the way that it's done in something like Total Recall, where there's a big mind, there's a big mind mash up, and you're going, is this really, our hero, or is it the secret agent story that's going on? You know what I mean? So seeing these two different people, and they're still in two different rooms. They're not in the same room at this particular stage. You don't know what the hell's going on. I've got here that the Doctor explains about keeping running, and then the Donna melts. So obviously, in part of this conversation, something triggers, and the aliens start to melt, and you can see Donna's melting in a pool of liquid. in the other conversation, the real Donna, the tie has gone. So he took his tie off earlier on. And the tie has now disappeared from the floor. And the doctor bends over, revealing himself that he's also not the real doctor. He's an alien. And I put here, look, the real doctor hits out at the walls, sort of like smacking at the walls. The Donna walk opens the door, as does the doctor. All doctors and Donnas now meet in the same room. Yeah, so basically, you've got two different rooms. They were obviously, he was hitting out at the wall in frustration with all of this. Went through the other door. At the same time, Donna's opened their door. They're seeing each other across from each other. They both step into the room, and now you've got four. You've got all four of them in the same room. Like I said, it does get very confusing, all of this. Yeah. So, but I do remember that.
Tennant do that thing where he walked like a crab.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He bends over on himself. That's the reveal where Donna melted. The other doctors.
Yeah, that's right.
He went in on himself, sort of like had his head up through his in front of his back, his backside.
I'll be honest, that reminded me of the Thing for a bit.
Yeah.
The dog and the man, where they was that sort of gave me vibes of the Thing, really, and the Exorcist in a way.
Very much so. We've only got one other comment at the moment that's come from Rocket Bunnies, but I thought the CGI in the chase got a bit out of sync with the characters. Several moments I could see the actors running on the spot. I was making dinner at the time, so I wasn't paying close attention. Yeah, I might have missed that as well. Remember, I'm writing things down, but I thought every time I looked up, it looked like it was quite a fast-paced thing. Yeah. But you could well be right that in long shot, whenever you've got a long shot, you've got to remember they're all at different points going down the passageway. It might look like they're running on the spot, and I might not have been noticing that because I was just taking a quick glance up and down while I was writing my chicken scratch down. So that'll be interesting because I gave that a thumbs up for that sequence, and I might come back to that and think, no, it wasn't actually. That was probably one of the weaker ones, to be quite honest. At this particular juncture, I was thinking that the effects here are actually quite good. I'm quite enjoying the effects in this particular show.
Yeah, they are.
Anyway, so we've now got both doctors and both Donnas in the same room, and there's multiple conversations going on. The doctor says the Donna always thinks stupid and clever at the same time. Because this is the how do I know you're the Donna and how do I know that you're the doctor sort of conversations. So the doctor suddenly produces a salt cellar and puts it on the floor and beckons the aliens to cross the salt line. The doctor then asks the aliens, what do you want? The doc then speculates, do you want to escape? The aliens talk of war and hatred. Anything you want to add at this particular juncture? The salt thing, I wondered, whether this was coming from the Damons or not, because he's never really been big on superstition. He's always been logic, science, recognized that religion has superstition elements in it.
Well, I'm going to actually draw back to the very first episode and say, like the wig, where did the salt come from? For the start. But and how the aliens just took it for granted that this was the way it was. They could have just walked out with the salt anyway. Why would they take any heed to that? Because
I think it might be because Donna is the person that probably thinks superstition, and that's where they got the idea of the superstition from. And the doctor then brought it out.
To go down on all fours.
And so because they're a combined mind, they're going, we're confused here. Is it right or is it wrong? Because as I said in the Damons, the doctor has always been a logical person, but it did seem that he recognized about religious aspects of things. And I think they talk about the salt cellar a little bit later on as well, which is why I'm not going to dwell upon it too much here. I might have added some notes about that then, because I think he said, why did you bring up the salt cellar? And that's where I know that it was Donna's idea about the salt cellar and putting it on the floor. And that wasn't the doctor's idea. But anyway, the aliens, they start talking about war and hate. That's where we got to at this particular stage. The Doctor and Donna then escape through a revolving door. They manage to get to the control room, and it closes behind them with another perspex door. Do you remember I talked about these perspex doors? Amazing all these perspex doors where they could have had just a sheet of metal. Not that I'm counting perspex doors through all of these episodes, but I do think to myself, yeah, I mean, it would only work with a perspex door, this next scene.
Yeah.
Wow, saying that, you could have done it all over little screens, you know, where you got the camera pointing at them in the other side. You can see what they're actually doing, and they're doing exactly the same, talking through the door. That's been done before. I think in that episode 52, was it, which was about 52 seconds to Doomsday or whatever it was.
Just, I must admit, at that point, I can't remember. I think his name was Ted Malt, you know, and I've got this saying in my head: if you want to fit the best, fit Everest, you know, like.
Yeah. Double glazing. Yeah. We're going off topic a little bit here, aren't we? Let's see what else we've got here. So Rocket Buddy's got, don't get me wrong, most of the visuals were superb, definitely showing the Disney budget. Colin said, I do seem to remember the 10th Doctor Tennant used to pull random crap out of his coat quite often. Yeah, it's probably a trait going on here. I'm trying to think of episodes now, but I do think he did seem to bring out something, you know, like psychic bloody papers and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. I'm not so head up about the salt cellar, because I'm not so sure that I wouldn't have a salt cellar if I had a backpack on my back. You know what I mean? For me pack lunch or something. He could have a salt cellar, you know, from, you know, but I would have found it funny if he brought out a jelly baby or something. That'd have been more funny. But yeah, so we won't get tied up or tied down about salt at the moment. Then we've got General Grievous saying, this is getting out of hand now. There are two of them. Yeah, it was getting out of hand. Really was. Salt was a bit like Chalk Circle in Battlefield. Yeah, and again, we've got another episode. Some Rocket Buddies come up with a classic here, Battlefield, the final season of the classic era. And Merlin, and the fact that the Doctor was Merlin, if I remember rightly, in that. Yeah, Morgana, wasn't it? Yeah, very, very, very much so. This is where Doctor actually shined during Sylvester McCoy's era. I liked all of that. Doctor, are you really Merlin? Are you really, you know, all of this sort of stuff? And he was
I am more than just a Time Lord.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did like all of that. Anyway, we got to the point where I said that Ted Moat's double glazing came down, didn't we? So anyway, Donna asks, why do they want to scare us and provoke us? That's a speculational statement. Donna then states it seems to be adrenaline is helping them. So it was Donna that recognized actually that the more they were getting more adrenaline into them and getting more scared, it seemed to be benefiting the aliens more than it was affecting them. The Doctor says, don't think.
Yeah.
So he sort of like gives an instruction that says, don't think. I thought that was quite good, being as Donna's there. She don't think at all, does she? But she thinks clever and stupid at the same time. So anyway, but I do know that it's actually hard not to think when somebody actually says don't think.
Don't think, yeah.
If somebody tells me don't think, I'm thinking, oh, I've got to stop thinking. I'm thinking now, what am I doing? I'm going round and round and round and round circles. But anyway, the aliens start to provoke our heroes by asking questions. There is then a loud noise heard, and a door opens. The sun shield above the control room sees a floating alien in a spacesuit. Then I've put the biggest problem that I had with this episode, which I mentioned to Denny a little bit earlier on. Sorry, folks. A few more things about pronouns in regards to the alien captain that is floating above them. The aliens ask questions as they don't know what's happened at this point. The Donna deduces that the captain must have committed suicide, and from then on, both the Doctor and Donna refer to the captain as a she. Now, I'm writing things down as fast as I can, so I've missed the deduction where they've leapt from this being an alien to referring to the captain as being a she. So I have to rely on you, Denny. Did you catch on to any of this that I've just mentioned? Because it is the only downside of this thing in regards to pronouns this episode and the references of he, she.
I don't think it was a deliberate attempt like it was last week to assassinate with any particular, political, nuance at all.
And I totally agree with that statement because,
But I don't know. I mean, did he know what the alien species was? How did he know the alien was a she? Does it really matter?
No.
But I don't think there was any deliberate attempt for the message on this particular point.
That's what I think, and that's why I was probably hypersensitive based on last week that I was seeing this.
But that's the trouble, though, isn't it? This is the knock-on effect of when it does happen. You start questioning, he, she. I mean, after the last time, supposedly the doctor got the gender wrong. So what's to say he got it wrong this time?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that I saw about this alien captain, it had been out there for 3 years. We know that. When you saw it pass by, it looked very much like an Egyptian Horus type thing. It looked like like one of those headdresses, but that's just the bones of it left, which means it definitely was an alien and it wasn't humanoid.
Unless he picked something up off the console earlier.
Well, that's very true as well, because he was looking for life sources and he didn't, but he found none. So I don't know whether he looked at any other records.
Yeah.
So you don't know. But I don't think we need to know. It's nice that there's a bit of a mystery here because we know that the captain committed suicide. Doesn't matter whether it was a he or she. Suicide is terrible. And they're deliberating now what caused commit the suicide. That's the whole point of the story here at this moment. Is all emphasis now is not how we get off of the ship. It's what committed the suicide, and is that going to aid us getting off of the ship, knowing this knowledge? So the captain's now a she. The sun shield closes, and the doctor debates more. There's a discussion on slow and the reconfiguration of the ship. So he's now recognized that slow seems to be the problem with what's going on here. Everything seems to be slowing down. And then there's this reconfiguration that's going on with the ship, and he's tying those two things up. He now ties up that the voice is slow. So he's recognized that it's not a language that he doesn't quite understand. It's the fact that the voice is elongated because time is slow. So basically, we're hearing elongated words. And he then deduces that the words are not words but numbers, and that they're on a countdown to destruction. So he's actually crossed over the leap and figured out that the ship is on a countdown to destruction.
And everybody knows that now because he's thought it. So
yeah,
and the aliens.
He's also recognized the fact that the robot is the triggering mechanism, that it's walking down this corridor very, very slowly, that it's trying to get to an access point where it would actually be the fuse for starting off the explosion. He's also worked out that the countdown is on the number 5. So we know that we're at 5. It probably started off at 10. And I'd have to go back. You'd probably recognize with those words then, if you go back, that there have been 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I haven't done that yet, but that'll be fun to do that as a rewatch, because I always tend to do those things on a rewatch. Is go, did they do it accurate enough? Did they actually did they turn up on 10 or did they turn up on 8? And I'm forever doing things like that when I'm watching something. So that'd be a fun thing to do, I think, on that. Anything you want to add at the moment? We've got to the point where he's deduced it all now as being a countdown to an explosion, long words, timey-wimey, and that they're on to the number 5 at the moment.
No. As I say, it's just like you say, it's a good time from the beginning of the episode of why he just counted down to 5. So, yeah, no, nothing else.
Okay, so the Doctor then reveals the revelation that the speed up is going to occur on time to the inevitable explosion, and then we recognise that we're now up to 4 on the countdown. Because he presses a button and basically all things then really start rushing forward. The real Doc and Donna rush to the robot. There's a fight between Alien Donna and real Donna. So she's sort of like left behind while the Doctor's still running towards the robot. The countdown is at 2. The alien Doc seems to be speeding up, and the TARDIS then suddenly arrives, sort of materializes in a sort of semi-dematerialized state, and the Doc enters the TARDIS. The Doctor then picks up Donna after deducing whether it's the correct Donna or not. Now, before it gets even more confusing here, do you want to mention anything? Because this is a very big chase sequence where Donna's been left behind. The Doctor's not recognized all of that. Heading towards the explosion, the TARDIS is coming down. He's got one opportunity to pick up Donna. He deduces this must be the right Donna, picks that one up, and we know ourselves it's not the right Donna, but the Doctor is adamant he's picking the right one up. That's all we know at the moment.
There's one glaring thing to me within this chase sequence.
Right.
The alien Doctor is running after the other Doctor.
Yeah.
It's about halfway through the chase. He then goes on to our Doctor, is running after the alien Doctor.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the alien Doctor then goes on to all 4s to run faster.
Speeds up, yeah.
So why didn't the alien Doctor do that to begin with? Because he would have got to the robot in time.
Yeah, but then again, I've seen that in Terminators and things as well, where I've seen them go faster when they're on all 4s, and I'm saying, why the bloody hell is he running on 2 legs when it actually starts moving a lot damn sight faster when they're like in a cougar-like state? So I'm not gonna really slam that one down myself, Denny, on that one.
See, for me, it's just a point again of using the script for the actual alien not to get to the robot, the Doctor.
Yeah.
It for me, that it doesn't sit right with me, because at the end of the day, if it had gone on all 4s, which naturally it would have done to begin with, I mean, for me, it's just like a plot. It fits for the script, for the story, basically, so that particular thing can happen. Myself, I'd have thought of another way to do it, to be honest. Or just put him on all 4s to begin with, and he didn't get there. But
I mean, I haven't even brought up the idea of all 4 of them are rushing towards this robot. Do all 4 of them want to stop the explosion, or do the alien ones want the explosion to go off?
Well, that's a good point.
Because if the explosion goes off, they're all dead. So I'm taking it they're all heading towards the robot to stop the explosion, because the alien ones then can work on what they're going to do about our Donna and Doctor after that point. So at the moment, you all want them to get to the robot so it doesn't blow up. So I'm not quite sure. I don't think we're rooting for anybody here to get to it other than our own, but it wouldn't matter if the aliens got there, because they'd want to stop it as well.
Yeah, well, I think they'd want to stop it because obviously they knew that the TARDIS was going to come back.
So why did therefore the alien Donna attack the other Donna when they both want the same thing?
Yeah. So I
am confused, but I'm confused probably because I missed something. But I was looking at this and going, I'm not quite sure who I'm rooting to win here.
Well, they'd be the quickest one to get there, wouldn't it? So yeah. Yeah, now you put it like that, it doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
But I think I've missed something, so I was hoping you'd picked it up.
Well, yeah. Well, I can't
let's see if anybody's put something here. Rocket Bunny, hang on, just a thought. Maybe the captain's race is an Easter egg. There's the Osirans from Pyramids of Mars. Pyramids of Mars, maybe. Probably wishful thinking of my part. Yeah, the Osirans. Colin Jones. Let's see. Donna stopped Donna to take one out of the chase, but he still doesn't ask what's the chase, because I missed something, Colin, because they both don't want this ship to blow up, surely, because nobody wins in that instance.
That's true. That's true.
But anyway, we know what happens next, don't we? Because we're going to move forward, aren't we, on this?
But is that the point? Donna stopped Donna, so the wrong Donna could get on the TARDIS. Is that a fault of the script?
Yeah, but how does that know that the TARDIS was going to turn up? All of that sort of stuff. You see, you don't know, do you? Because even the Doctor doesn't know that the TARDIS is going to turn up. He's looking up and going, yeah, the TARDIS is here. How did that other Donna know that then?
Well, basically, it's the way the script's been wrote, so that can actually put Donna on the TARDIS. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway, the countdown's at 2. The alien starts to speed up. TARDIS arrives. The Doc enters the TARDIS. The Doc picks up the Donna, thinking it's the proper Donna, but it's not. So the Doctor leaves the wrong Donna behind. The robot hits the button. The ship blows up, and there's a slow watch of the whole ship destruction. The Doc realizes he's got the wrong Donna via a scan. The TARDIS then reconfigures itself and it checks Donna, which I thought was quite good because it was like a reconfiguration and it chucked her out.
Yeah,
and he rescues the right Donna, picks up the correct Donna and escapes. There's a big kaboom. The TARDIS is then seen spinning through space out of the explosion, and the Doctor and Donna hug each other. Anything you want to add before we go further? Because there is still more to go. But
just one point there. The Doctor was in the TARDIS, and he said he's got a feeling of something he didn't quite pick up on what it was.
Yes, I remember that line being said. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to know whether that's to do with the next episode or not. But he did actually state he stops and he says, I've this feeling I've got something, I don't know quite what, and then just nonchalantly just forgets it all of a sudden.
Yeah,
I'd love to know what that was about.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking at the scans, and I remember that being said. I'm writing something down. The next time I'm looking up, Donna's got her arms up in the air with one of the plinths in the TARDIS suddenly springing down, and she's being chucked out. So I'm going, I don't know, I might have missed something here. Because I'm trying to write down and go as fast as I damn well can. And this is quite a fast-paced show. I have to turn around and say that. We'll see whether people have picked up upon anything here. Donna stopped Donna to take out that chase. Yeah. Colin, the real Doctor and Donna wanted the boom to happen. Yes, to stop them because they're at the edge of space, I suppose. It's the only way that things can move on. But they have to have an escape mechanism to get out themselves. So I still don't quite get this. They wanted to stop the alien stopping the boom. Right. I'm going to have to sort of like read back and look at this. It's not you, Colin. It's me being thick. I have to say here. So, yeah.
So that was going to sacrifice itself then, is basically that one.
Right, yeah, so they didn't care whether they had a hope or not, as long as actually the right prevails, I suppose. Yeah, that's a possibility, isn't it? Because the Doctor is always... It's been restated many, many times, hasn't it, that the Doctor is always doing something for good, isn't it? And he's a good Doctor and all of this sort of stuff. So no matter what the sacrifice he'll do, what's the betterment of everything? It's almost the same conundrum of Spock dying, isn't it? You know, that the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few, and I'll sacrifice myself because that's what I am, and that's the essence of me. Yeah.
But would the TARDIS pick up on that? And excuse me, would the TARDIS pick up on that? And
at this particular stage, he's probably not thinking whether the TARDIS is even going to be coming back. We don't know. He might have a glimmer of hope that that's the only escape mechanism that's going to happen. You don't know, do you? It's the writing that says that happened, and you go, okay, and I accept it. It's whether you think, would the Doctor always think that oh, I'll always get myself out of these situations, or has he actually come into across his own mortality and he just basically does it anyway? Because I don't think he'd have had a thought in his head about Donna at this stage. He's racing towards something to stop a button from being pressed. You know what I mean? If there is a betterment for the greater good for the maximum amount of people, Donna wouldn't come into it, even if it does sadden him. But you can't write that type of writing in a story like this because it's too fast paced. You're never going to be able to get that characterization across, I don't think. Not in a satisfactory way. Anyway, we got one more comment, and we've got Elias. The Doctor said something about the TARDIS showing up before the ship exploded, so they wanted the ship to blow up, knowing the TARDIS would show up in time. But how would they know that the TARDIS would show up in time? The Doctor said something about the TARDIS showing up before the ship exploded. How did he know that? I don't remember that being said.
Isn't the TARDIS aligned to the Doctor like that?
Possibly. And this is where I'm probably not leaping to that instant thing. There might be something I've missed in New Who, but I would have gone. He wouldn't have known. He can't know.
It's just something from the past I seem to remember. Whether it's me just thinking it, but I thought the Doctor and the TARDIS was more like on the same. They're connected without being connected. So the TARDIS had now. He was in imminent danger of, dying.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's just a...
Here we go. The aliens were in a paradox. They needed the real Doctor to solve the bomb problem by thinking. We know that. That's brilliant. That was definitely true. Then they could complete the transition to copy their form and escape in the TARDIS. They would have known about the TARDIS because they got all their memories. Yeah, you're dead on. Now it's starting to make more sense to me. Like I said, I do apologize to everybody. I don't count myself as thick. But I was writing down a heck of a lot. I was doing this. That's my excuse. I'm putting up my jazz hands and going, yay. I was scared about what this was going to be happening in the next 10 minutes. So what else have we got? Hads. The danger was over, so the TARDIS returned. Yeah, we know that. He did actually state that. Yes, but how did he know that the Hads were the TARDIS had been fixed and the Hads would come back for them in that time?
At the appropriate time,
At the appropriate time. He hasn't got something that says, oh, look, in 2 minutes, the TARDIS will have repaired itself. He's got nothing that tells him this. So that's where I'm going.
But is it just the trope of all these programs, whether it's, when there's been a bomb.
He's got a telepathic bond with the TARDIS, so he knows
it's like when you have a bomb and it's counting down, they always stop it on 1. You know what I mean? Is it sort of the same thing?
I think our friends in the chats have got this far more accurate than we have, Denny. That's all I can say about that. And to be quite honest, I'm glad they have, because I know I'm not infallible. I think I've got a pretty good grasp of this episode up until this point, and it was just this that I was having a bit of a trickle problem with. That was all. I thought it was very good though. So so the TARDIS now reappears, takes the correct. Where are we? Yeah, we're near the end. The Doctor then speculates about a bad feeling, and the Doctor talks about memory and his past and Donna's memory, and Donna asks about the last 15 years and what happened. The Doctor then says a lot, and he will be okay in a million years' time. The Doctor lands, the doors open, and Wilf is shown.
Oh, Wilf, yeah.
Okay. There's a big hug. In long shot, I've just mentioned here, in long shot, I can see a great big statue or Cyberman. I just put that in, just in brackets. Wilf says he's glad to see them all both because the Doctor can now save us all. There's a big explosion. A plane is then seen flying over the top as if it starts to be crashing, and the end titles roll up. Yeah. End of story. Remembering that I have not seen Doctor Who Unleashed, and I didn't see anything up until I did catch a glimpse of the end credits. And the only thing I saw in the end credits, because I was getting myself ready to getting onto StreamYard, was I did see regeneration energy around David Tennant, and we did see the new Doctor as a still, I think, with the word Doctor Who then suddenly embossed, and that was the end. So that's all I can tell you about what I know of next week's episode. Other than I also know it's the Celestial Toy Maker, or it's called the Toy Maker. Could be the Celestial, might be something else. So we'll just get caught up. Well, I know, Denny, I want you to give your thoughts to that last segment with Wilf and the talk about 15 years and all of that. Have you got anything to say about that ending?
It was lovely to see Bernard Cribbins return as Wilf.
Yes.
And it was lovely to see at the end credits that did give him, the sending off he deserved, at the end.
Did that help you with your first episode story? Because you said I gave it a massive minus demerit point for not having Bernard Cribbins as being dead.
I'll just assume it in the comments last week. Obviously, he'd already filmed something which I didn't realise. But it was nice that it sort of gave me closure on him. It was lovely to see him. Obviously, you could tell by his face he wasn't a well man, but it was lovely to see him, and I'm glad they're putting the end credits in memory of Bernard Cribbins. That pleased me now. As for your Cyberman, that was in the first episode, I believe. It's a cafe. It's just there's another.
Oh right, it was just in long shot, and I thought that looks like a great big mannequin type thing, but it looks absolutely massive. But it looks almost, because I mean, knowing that it's the Toy Maker at the end. I just wondered whether this was an indication that something has changed while they've gone, and that was new. Do you see what I mean? Because I remember seeing the Camden section, but I don't remember seeing that big thing. And I thought that was the first indication that they weren't back in normal terracotta, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up on Wilf saying everybody's going mad.
Yeah,
I think I put this obviously the Celestial Toy Maker. I'm dying to see the Celestial Toy Maker. Obviously,
yes,
come back after all these years. The regenerate, you saw him starting to regenerate. I just hope there's a good reason why they bought. I want to know the reason why they bought Tennant's Doctor back. I need a payoff before he goes.
Yes, because it was talked hugely, but not so much in this episode, and that's where I'm talking. If you put all 3 episodes together, is this a padding episode, or is this all gels all in one? Because we mention it a bit in the beginning, nothing in this, and then it's obviously going to be mentioned at the end.
Yeah.
So when you look at things as being in a 3, and what I've just said, nothing of that is mentioned in this, then you think to yourself, this is a padding episode. It's a joining episode. It has really no bearings other than the Doctor and Donna went on one last adventure before, which is nice. Before we get to the other thing.
Yeah, it was going to be nothing more than I just hope, as I say, I wish they'd have put a bit of start the mystery from episode 1 as to why they brought him back. I hope it ain't going to be this rush job at the end. Why? Oh, this is why it happened.
I don't want rush either.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's really all I've got to say on the matter, really, mate.
So that's your closing comments to the last bit. So I'm going to add, I'm totally in agreement with you. I thought it was lovely to see Wilf. I could even see the happiness and the enthusiasm in his face, even though I know that he wouldn't have been well at this particular stage, which is a real trooper of an actor. And it was lovely as well to see David Tennant smile as big a smile as he did when he saw Wilf. And you could just see that all 3 of those actors that are playing these parts at the moment.
I love that scene.
I like this off scene as well as on scene. Then the whole mood sort of like seems to change. You see even in the crowds that there is definitely something going on, and the big plane that goes over the top definitely looked like another quite good special effect. Roll credits. What more can I say? Much better than the I've poured coffee down the console's keys and set up a big fire when they got their rubber seals where there's drinks dispenser right next to you. You think to yourself, that's a very bad, poor design console where you haven't even got a rubber seal around things. So all I'm saying is much better ending, much darker and better story. Hardly really too many niggles. It wasn't too confusing either if you were just watching it, because I've got the idea that if I watch this again, I wouldn't be having too many difficulties at all. But like you, thread between this story, the last story, to this story, to what the end story is now on my mind in regards to this just being a padding episode, which means as much as it's a great episode, you could not then turn around and say this is an absolute brilliant episode, because it goes nowhere. It doesn't come from anywhere, and it doesn't end anywhere if the end and the beginning are as bad as each other. So this would then reduce the greatness of what I consider to be a really good episode. That's my closing comment on this before we give any scores or anything. There are comments. They've been rolling up the screen while I've been doing this. So let's have a quick look. Did they land? Christ, I have gone. Things have scrolled off the screen a little bit, so just bear with me. Thanks, Colin. I thought that was what I heard. Yeah, I remember we've said that. I don't remember his exact words, but go back and listen to it. Colin Jones, the TARDIS is a time machine. It could have taken years to repair itself and returned at the right time.
Good point.
All I was getting at with that is it can take years for it to come back. What my whole point is, how does the Doctor know it's going to come back at that exact moment?
That's also a good point.
That's the thing I'm trying to get at. Unless there's some telepathic thing, unless he knows he's always going to get to this point and win, how does he know the TARDIS is going to come up at that exact moment? And they couldn't have planned it.
But didn't Saran Jones play the essence of the TARDIS?
She did, yeah. She is the TARDIS in the body.
Where that was like, that was.
I've always been at the right. I've always been where you needed to be, is what she. I think she actually said. But anyway, I'm not going to deliberate on it too much because I think I'm in the wrong. But all I'm getting at is I've missed the part where the Doctor knew the TARDIS was going to get there just before this all happened, and that the aliens knew. Well, we know the aliens would know this because they've got the memories and minds of of our heroes. It's just I still have this difficulty. How does the Doctor know the TARDIS is going to turn up at half between 1 and 0 of this button being pressed to get on board the TARDIS? I still are deliberating that, but when I watch it, I'm pretty sure it's going to come through to me. So that's great. Did they land the same place they left from? Ooh. Because they're in a passageway and it was in a room. Colin Jones, if he runs out of time, the hostile action ends and the time machine would know exact words. That's probably it. So if he runs out of time, the hostile action ends, which it does, and the time machine would know that exact words. Yeah, that's very true.
That is a very good pointer.
Rocket Bunny, I didn't realize he had filmed it either. This is about Wilf now, and he was great. What a magical end to a wonderful actor's life. Yeah. Brilliant. I totally agree, Rocket Bunny. I thought that was probably the nicest whimsical moment of this episode. General Grievous says one last adventure. Yeah, that's right. Colin Jones, next week I'm in work for the episode, though I should be able to watch on iPlayer in my break. That'd be good for you. Because we were debating as well for next week. You know, obviously we've all got work, we've all got this, and we're all trying to make it so that we can do an episode straight afterwards. But that might not be the case. What we do know, guys and gals, is there will be us deliberating over the third episode. We'll aim as best as we can in regards to that, but we'll talk about that on our signing off. Have you got anything to talk about with this story as a whole, Denny, and your score, please?
Right. I think I've said at the beginning, just didn't work for me. Pointless, to be honest. I know some people like a bit of humour. I like dark comedy. As a whole, I thought the special effects were brilliant. Yeah. I thought the incidental music in part of it was wonderful. Absolutely loved it, like a space sonnet. Overall, again, I don't feel this is Doctor Who. I know it's excuse me. I know it's never going to happen. I would prefer it to return as 4 25-minute episodes, which is never going to happen, or 6. No. I think the 50 minutes it's on over is too short a period to tell a story. So for me, a Doctor Who story always feels rushed since it's come back, really.
Yeah.
Story-wise, on the whole, it could look confusing, but I found it quite boring, to be honest.
Right.
So, really, my score, if you could say I'm the Craig Revel-Orwood of the Strictly panel, if I'm going to do it. So, I'll give it quite a generous 4.5 out of 10.
4.5.
It was darker. I do
Yeah.
agree. It was darker. The message wasn't there, which, thank the Lord, it wasn't there. So, yeah, 4.5. There's a lot of scope, obviously, to improve.
Yeah.
So, but
And
it wasn't bad.
would you like to also just remind the viewers your revised score from last week, what you turned it from, and then
Yes.
to,
Last
so we can
week,
put it in context really with your
yeah.
4.5 this week.
Yeah. So last week I did give it a 4. After looking at some of the videos online, I had to agree. Obviously, after scoring this week, I've dropped it down to a 2 because there was no real story, and it was the message.
Yeah.
Now that wasn't Doctor Who. That was their. If you, I've picked from somebody else who put it online. They have a political vomit all over the episode, and I just did not like it one bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty good. I dare say everybody wants to know now my opinion. So, as anybody knows, last week I said that scores will always get revised because I'll probably even come back to it after we've watched all 3, because I'm hoping that all stories are going to be interconnected. And I think we now know that's not going to happen after we've seen this story, because there's literally nothing about the long arc of this story in this particular middle episode. So we now sort of like have got a crux of that right away. So I gave the score last week a 6, and then I said at the very beginning that score was revised down on this to a 4. And not because I'd watched any videos or anything like that. I realized myself after watching the episode for a second time and watching Doctor Who Unleashed that it was the euphoria of it coming back, the excitement and everything, that, and the whole spectacle of the lead up to it that made me think higher of it. You know, all of the things that I dismissed on it was virtually the same as you. But knowing as well that I am not the audience they're writing Doctor Who for, I came up with a new score of 4. Now, when it comes to this episode, which is totally different tone, I much more prefer the tone in this story than the story before it. The spectacle is out of the way, so basically I'm not blinded by the spectacle. It's nice to see them together. The ending was very, very nice with seeing Wilf, which basically leads me to a bit of excitement in the next one, because we've got another character that's going to be in dilemma, because we don't think that Wilf's journey ends here. He may be in a wheelchair, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be quite integral from my feelings anyway. But just like you, the pacing on this, I have to talk about the pacing, because just like you, I'm Classic Who. From anybody that looks at Classic Who, we have seen 2 episode stories before, and they've always been predominantly panned. Generally, there are only a couple of 2 episodes ones that I think stand out. But again, the writing is written purposely for a 50-minute. So the writing again is not for me. So bearing that in mind, and the fact that it's not written for me, my score is the same as last week for this one, in the fact that it's a 6. So my first story goes back to a 4, and this one goes to a 6. There's not enough action. There is a story like this set inside the TARDIS during Matt Smith's era, which has got equal going down corridors, dark, eerie, etc., that had far more action in it, and basically had the same type of peril in it, and it was done better in that story than this one. So I'm giving it a big fat 6, and I'll stick by that, and say overall I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it was dark, but sad because it's not the enjoyment that I got out of Classic Who. And I'll never see that again, I think.
No.
Which means that I'm coming close to the death knell when it comes to the third story and whether I continue down this trick for the next Doctor. But we've got some comments again, and I've got to try and keep up with all of this. So just bear with me. We start off with Ian. So this will be probably talking just before we were talking about the end. This felt like a much better story without the awful gender politics and the awful meep. It just felt better. But last week's story was such a bad taste in my mouth. It couldn't get worse. He doesn't know the TARDIS is going to return, but that's not his primary thought. He knows that if they get to the full universe, they'll wreak havoc. So he just has to stop them at any cost. Very, very true. All of that. Totally down with, absolutely spot on. I mean, obviously we know that the peril would be I'm going to sacrifice myself, and that's why they were all heading for it. Like I say, he knows the TARDIS will return the same way it returns at the end of Revenge of the Cyberman after Genesis of the Daleks, telepathic circuits. He always seems to know. Yeah, there is that. He had the Gallifreyan time bands, didn't they, on with the Genesis, where he got back to the wheel, wasn't it? The wheel in space, or the arc in space. Yeah. He does mention the use of telepathic circuitry all the way through the classic Doctors, but I still don't know how it works. It's just a written-y thing. I'm not really. I mean, at the end of the day, it's my Doctor Who, so I can let it go. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna turn around and think there really is like Planet of the Apes and that we're all the Statue of Liberty is definitely going to be sticking up through the sand in my timeline. So we'll go down that route, shall we? Sandy Ollier, hi. Do you feel it's time we put Doctor Who to bed? It really doesn't feel like Doctor Who to me. And I'm going to answer that before you, Denny, but just purely on the basis is I think that's something that you look at within yourself and ask that question, because from my point of view, yes, it's not my Doctor Who anymore. It's like now watching a former of itself, a story set in the same universe as my Doctor Who. It's almost like a parallel multi-universe Marvel story going on the side of while my original Tom Bakers and Peter Davisons are still carrying on theirs somewhere, and I just haven't heard them or read them or seen them. That's sort of like how I'm looking at it. What's your comment to Sandy on your opinion at the moment?
If it was just based on my sole opinion, yeah, I would put it to rest for quite a few years, to be honest. I know, as a Doctor Who fan, that seems sacrilege. But my entertainment is different to everybody else's. Personally, I would rest it. God help us if the BBC and Disney got their hands on Blake 7 and stuff like that. I just wish that put a lot of these programs that we love to bed until this period, political, shall we call it political period?
Yes,
goes down and goes away.
We need that settling down. We need to know that everybody has heard this to death now. It doesn't need to be restated, and I still don't think that's going to happen.
Well, to be honest,
anytime soon. So,
to be honest, Del, it might not happen anytime soon, but a lot of these studios are losing a lot of money, money, and they can't afford to keep losing this money. Something will give, and something will give. I mean, it hasn't happened to the Japanese films, has it? Like the new Godzilla and that, or a lot of. I mean, I know Sony produced this, but. Put some money, I believe, into it. But by and large, I mean, they've done the new, just to put it into context, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah.
That, they was quite adamant it wasn't going to go in that. So I think you can start to see the green shoots. That it's changing. But to answer to Sandy, yes, I would rest it, and I would bring it back in. You need somebody completely fresh. Look at the way it used to be. I will put it back to the 25-minute format, the way it used to work.
Yeah.
But I can't see that happening. But 50 minutes is not enough to tell the story, as far as I'm concerned. It's
Yeah.
too rough.
I think I'm a little bit scared to make your mind up for you, Sandy. That's why I turn around and say, look, everybody has to look in on themselves and say, look, this is what I got out of Doctor Who in the new era. This is what I got out of Doctor in the classic era. This is where I currently stand looking at these 3 episodes and how I want to move forward. That's all I've got to say about it. I will say this as well, is that it's not also about the time on this, because I was one of the people that saw Doctor Who go in the 80s and then wait an awful long time to watch an episode like the movie version, which had Paul McGann come in, and then wait another almost like an eternity for them to actually get round and launch BBC Three with the Russell T Davies era. I think every Doctor Who fan that's ever had actually lived that length of gap of time has a lot of patience, and therefore looks at the things a lot differently than somebody that's just come in and said, I've only been used to the new era, or I've only ever known the old era. So I have to look at it that I lived through that long gap and I lived it. I can't live through that long gap again this time, because by that point I'll be 80 something. Somebody will be wiping my own ass, thinking like this, in a nursing home by that point, and I'll be dribbling. So all I'm saying is we do need to rest it. This wokeness and all that sort of stuff does need to go away for me personally. But there we go. And I'll leave that with you, Sandy. And I wish you well, and do hope that you'll follow us, just even if it's just one on these sort of little travels that we're doing. And we've got another comment here from Rocket that says, my score 6 out of 10 probably would have been higher if we hadn't watched the dross of last week. Yes. And this is where I came up with my 6. And I put myself down to that 4 at the beginning. And I might even go down to 3, but I thought 4 was sensible because there was bits of entertainment in it. I'm not going to get away and turn around and say there wasn't something in it for me, because there was. And the last comment we got here at the moment, anyway, I think. Oh, no, God, we've got loads. Oh, my God. Hang on a minute. Oh, have a good one, mate. And Denny, that's what Denny said. I'm so sorry about this, Denny, but we've got to read through these. Mr. Lion, compare this to the Day of the Daleks, etc. It rates a -1. Mr. Lion, it's just a terrible 60th anniversary arc. Mr. Lion, we waited nearly 2 years for this. Now, this is where I came up with a comment where I said how long I waited. Well, you think you waited 2 years for this? I waited how long?
Since
more Doctor Who to come along. I mean, you want to know how long to wait, you look at that side of things, Mr. Lion. That's all I've got to say about that. Sandy Elliott, I would rate this 3 out of 10, a big letdown. Okay, yeah, well, you came up with a 4.5. It's pretty close to you, Denny. Colin Jones, for me, Doctor Who is still the best program on terrestrial TV. Long may it continue. Yeah, and I've got no qualms in thinking that it's a quality show. Just to me, it's a shadow of its former self. That's all. It's just not for me. I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people like me when I was younger, that think this is the bee's knees, absolute brilliance. And they could carry on watching this through to the end of their teenagers and still come back to it in their adults and go and show their own children it and say, this is what I watched. It's that sort of cycle. And from that point of view, it's top notch. It's just, I have to look at my own, what I want on this. Take it like this, Colin. You know me better than anything. Do you think a steel book will come out of this and I won't be buying it? Of course, I'll be bloody buying it. It's like I've got batches of films, like 5 Die Hard films, and even though everybody knows the 5th Die Hard film is a bag of shit, I'll have still bought the 5th one because I've got the other 4, and it will continue like that because you hope that it's going to be tail ended. It's going to be dovetailed. That's it, with the good episodes at the end that make those middle section bits bearable because you just went to yourself and you said, see, I told you the quality would return. And you've always got that in the back of your mind, Colin. So there's my end on that. You know full well I'm going to be here. But anyway, we move forward. Colin Jones, Blake 7 really didn't recover from the loss of the Liberator, in my opinion, but that's a different story.
I disagree.
Right, Denny, do you want to add anything to that before I start reading out the rest of the comments?
Now we can do that.
We can
now
do
we
that.
can do that another time. We can do that
another time. All right, because Colin, we're gonna have a debate with you on that. In fact, I'll invite you on. We'll have a chat. It's something that we can always do because Blake 7's not around at the moment coming back, so we can talk about old episodes and just deliberate amongst ourselves. Even if one person watches it, I'll do it because it's talking about a show I watched. So there you go. The General Grievous also says, for me, while Blue Yonder was better than Star Beast, somebody called it Star Breast the other day, and I said, what a tit. But there we go, very politically incorrect. But Colin Jones says the trouble with 4 times 25-minute parts is that these days the primary audience wouldn't buy into that format. We would, but we're not typical. Yeah, and this is where we're saying the format has changed, and so the way that we perceive things is not the same, and that's where we have a disjointment that probably is typical.
Well, that men. Scalp is watched on half-hour parts. So
wasn't it Colin Baker that turned around and said his format changed to 50 minutes, but they still wrote it like a 25-minute episode, which was a cliffhanger in the middle, and then they put it, and that was the only way that they could do it. But he always turned around and said it was wrong. It should have been 25-minute episodes. But then that was a time where there was only 4 or 5 channels. So again, they could have gone back to that format and they can release it in the 25-minute format because they know they put that cliffhanger in the middle of the 50 minutes, so they could have split it if they wanted to. So that's sort of like a safety net under themselves, I think, on that. Ian then says, I have to admit it's always classic Who all the way for me. It just doesn't feel like the Doctor I love anymore. I've been watching since a child in 1965. Yeah, and although I wasn't watching as a child in 1965, I've watched all those episodes, and I've been watching it since 73, 74. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Anything you want to add to Ian on there?
I totally agree with everything Ian says.
Totally agree. General turns around and says the first special was 6 out of 10 and the second special was 8 out of 10 in my opinion. It treated as typical episodes and not specials. And it's nice to see that the first episode is getting a lower score than this score in most cases. I'm not saying in every case, because I have seen somebody say this was worse than the first one at the very beginning when we were deliberating this. I'm not going to rewrite time and say that that's the case for everybody, but I am seeing that as a general consensus that this one is a higher grade than the last one, mostly. Sandy earlier says multi-part stories are, in my opinion, the best Doctor Who ever. Colin has put TV on the whole as a shadow of its former self, too many channels and only so much budget. RE Steelbooks, I don't think for 1 second you'll hesitate one little bit. He knows me too bloody well. Colin, you know yourself, Denny, when I'm doing my blogs, his statement comes up and it's like it makes my blog to read out Colin's, yours, Steve's, and a number of others, because you know me too well. You're all bastards. You're writing it just because you know I'm stuck in that position and I have to answer, and you know you've caught me with handcuffs because I've got nowhere to go. I have to do this. The General Grievous DuckTales, woohoo! that's the title tune as well. We've got the last comment, I think. It is from Rocket Bunny. It says, any plans to do a reaction to the colorized Dalek series? Had mixed feelings, some great moments where the new music edit added a lot to the story and actors, but other times it felt overpowering. I did think about this, Denny. I thought to myself, we'll get the specials out the way. We can go back because it was a good special that came out on the 60th anniversary for the colorized version of the Dalek story. We haven't mentioned it at all. we've done is talk about the spectacle of the week leading up to the specials, with only a mention of the Davros story.
Yeah.
And just to please Colin, no, maybe this is the last comment. So, with that all said, is there anything you'd like to say before I wrap this all up? And thank you. So, I just want to say straight away to everybody, you made my night. I've got a perfect partner in Denny. I've loved doing this. And you know, I'm really getting into the feeling of doing something like this more often. I never thought that I'd be a very good host at anything, but this is making me brain aware, exciting me, making me look forward to doing something. It's unusual, it's a skill that I'm learning, and you guys are just making this so much easier for me, so easy with your comments, and you're making me see things as well in a different light. So I'm going to hand over now to Denny to say just the one thing before the last comment, which would be to say goodbye to everybody. What would you like to say to everybody, Denny?
Well,
in regards to tonight?
I think, like everybody say, like I'm saying now, Del, you're the perfect host, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you. It's, you know, it's a subject. I mean, Doctor Who's always, you know, one of my favourite science fiction programs, like Blake 7, and I'd like to work with, you know, anybody else who'd like to come on, you know, talking about Blake 7 or anything like that, because it is a passion of mine, and I know it's a passion of yours as well, Del. So I'd just like to thank everybody for the comments tonight as well. It's been nice meeting you all. And yeah, some great comments. So thank you very much, everybody, for welcoming me and having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, and I got to mirror everything that's there. Some people are asking, how can we follow you, Denny? Now, I do remember you telling me that your channel has changed its address, and I haven't changed the address in my description for a long time. Is it possible in Discord you can give me the two addresses to the two things so I can correct all of my previous things? Yeah. And I'll tell the audience now, if you go to absolutely any of my videos and look at the description, you'll see a section that says, and why not try some of my friends? And in there you will see Denny pinpointed there. You'll also see ones to Mainmeister, Colin, Rock God, a number of people that have got absolute fantastic content out there, and all along a sort of like nostalgia line. Not necessarily is it science fiction, it's horror, films, vinyl records, soundtracks, TV tunes, emulation, computers through, you know, from the 80s up to now, including games played on modern consoles, handhelds, and everything else. So all I can say is I've got a number of them listed always in the description, and I will make sure that Denny's two addresses to his two channels, because I've only got one of them listed. I feel bad about this. Still haven't changed them. I'll get those, and I'll be replacing those over the next day across the bulk of my previous descriptions, so that no matter which one you click on, it will have both addresses there. And with that, I'm going to say salute, which is what I say at the end of my blogs, and I want Denny to have the last word. So go, Denny.
Again, thank you for all making me feel welcome, and from me on the Retro Control Centre, out.
Wave at the camera, Denny.
Bye.